beginning with a song by Swami Kriyananda entitled Dare to be Different.
From Rays of the One Light. These are weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. This week, many are the pathways to truth. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. On the dedication page of Swami Kriyananda's book, The Path, appears the following account. A group of Paramahansa Yogananda's disciples had gone with him to see a movie about the life of Gyandev, a great saint of medieval India. Afterwards, they gathered and listened to the master explain certain subtler aspects of that inspiring story. A young man in the group mentioned another film he'd seen years earlier in India, about the life of Mirabai, a famous woman saint. If you'd seen that movie, he exclaimed, you wouldn't have even liked this one. The guru rebuked him. Why make such comparisons? The lives of great saints manifest in various ways the same one God. The Bible contains a similar account in the Gospel of St. Luke, chapter 9. And John said, Master, we saw one casting out devils in thy name, and we forbade him, because he followeth not with us. And Jesus said unto him, Forbid him not, for he that is not against us is with us. The more central a truth, the greater number of contexts in which it can be applied. Truth is like a pure white light, containing within itself the full spectrum of the rainbow. Let no one tell you what your path to God ought to be. Many are the paths. Select your own according to the dictates of your own nature, no matter how out of step that puts you with other people. Sri Krishna, in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, states, trying even unsuccessfully to fulfill one's own spiritual duty or dharma is better than pursuing successfully the duties of others. Better death itself in the pursuance of one's own duties. The pursuance of another duties is fraught with spiritual danger. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Morning, everyone. Welcome to Sunday service. How is everyone?
Awake and ready.
Very sweet. For those who don't know us, my name is Nayaswami Daiva, and this is Nayaswami Mari. She has been last minute willing to step in and hold space for Nayaswami Gangamata, who was scheduled to give service with me this morning. She sends her regrets that she's not here. Her mother passed away very early this morning, and she's working with that this morning. So, but we're going to have a little fun because I brought her service notes.
Did you have some coffee?
We're going to start with a little joke about the little girl who was in Sunday school, and she was just over there feverishly painting and drawing and making a beautiful piece of art, and the teacher could see it, and she finally walked over and said, "Honey, what are you working on so hard for?" And the little girl looked up and she said, "I'm painting a picture of God." And the teacher looked down and said, "Honey, nobody knows what God looks like." And the little girl, undaunted, looked up and said, "They will in a minute." The topics today are perhaps some of the most needed conversations on the planet today. And they're needed inside of our own circle. They're needed universally. We tend to spend our time in connection with self-definition. We are hardwired. We're hardwired, deeply, profoundly hardwired, to be in relationship to our culture, to the world around us, to others. So much so that they did a study a while back, Yale, Harvard, one of the big Ivy Leagues, and the research was designed to explore what is man's default tape? What's going on when nothing else is going on? And they took a broad spectrum of individuals and they tested them, but included in that was folks who had the remarkable capacity for concentration. And they found that within seconds of them stopping focus, single-pointed focus on a project or on what they were absorbed in, within seconds, the mind reverted to the question of, who am I? What's my relationship to my peer group, to my world? How am I seen? How am I doing? And it's an interesting question why we're wired that way. Why are we wired that way? What is it that is supposed to be, how is that supposed to help us navigate spiritually? What is it that God embedded in us when He did that? And certainly part of what's there is we are a part of a larger reality. Dr. Peter Van Houten, he's a physician who is a many-year Kriya Bond and Ananda member, many, many years. And part of what he does, he runs a clinic down in Nevada County near Ananda Village for the Ridge. But he's got a deep and abiding interest in how we are made. And he does a lot of research in how the mind is wired and how meditation works and neurotheology or theoneurology or something like that. But one of the things that he talked about this summer was the fact that we have an enormous number of mirroring neurons. We're hardwired to reflect back what's going on around us. Okay? And what it does is it allows us to build complex societies with harmony and peace and reflecting common values and to integrate together in a way that makes a cohesive whole. And that's a part of how we're made. We are, in fact, connected. not only with each other, but with the universe in full. It's interesting, if you ever watch a slideshow, this is one of the most conspicuous experiences. If you ever watch a slideshow of Paramhansa Yogananda and his life, you'll often see him standing next to other people as they have a photo op. And, in one moment he can be standing next to Amalita Galakirchi. Now, Yogananda was not a large man physically, but Amalita Galakirchi was really tiny next to him. And you can see him standing next to her. And in some unmistakable but subtle way, he looks just like her. And it's like he reflects back her essence and holds that. And then another time he's standing by a Native American man in full dress. It's a chief of some kind, and in full native dress and the regalia and the power and everything. And in some indescribable way, Yogananda looks just like him. He looks like the president of Mexico. He completely was able to reflect that which was around him, but at the highest octave. Those mirroring neurons. So a part of what's embedded in us is this ability to connect and to unite and to be a part of a larger story. But there's a deeper part of that same voice and that same quality that's woven into us, that's designed to help us ask the question of, how am I doing? How am I navigating? And that part of the question, that part of the process, is designed not to be tied to our culture and our society, but to our inner communion. We are all cut from the same cloth, but we are all woven of the same threads, but oh so differently. And the pattern that goes into each one of us is by design unique. We are born. Yogananda said this is so much a part of God's dream, so much woven into the fabric of creation. He said that every atom is dowered with individuality. And our job as devotees, our job as people seeking to reawaken in God, is to discover that which can come only through us. God didn't make duplicates of even atoms, much less to say human beings. And our culture, our world, is designed to get us pigeonholed. It's designed to get us stuck into little tiny boxes with increasingly small amounts of self-definition. You're a Christian, you're a Muslim, you're a Jew, you're a Sikh, you're black, you're white, you're Indian, you're Chinese, you're American, whatever the God that is. The great hodgepodge. And then we take that as if it means something. And then we stand it off against all the other things that are out there. And so much of the trouble of this world today is in that simple fact. And then we're constantly asking, our minds get caught in asking the question, I'm an American, how am I doing, Americans? I'm a Jew, how am I doing, Jews? I'm not a Muslim, how am I doing, not Muslims? How am I standing in the midst of all this? And the only answer we can get back is to get us deeper into that self-definition, into the box of identity that constricts our consciousness and creates increasing divisiveness and locks us into Maya. These masters, and by extension Swami Kriyananda, who dedicated his life to living and then sharing those teachings and created Ananda as a byproduct or an expression of that, they came not to increase that difference and self-identity in ways that are small, but to help each one of us get in touch with the flow of God, the consciousness of God as our central reality, so that that's what expresses through us. Only in that, the first time I came to Ananda, I remember, for Sunday service, I remember sitting down. I was already a disciple of Yogananda. I was already studying the teachings and doing Hong Sa and trying to learn energization on my own out in the cow field and, all the things. But I came and I sat, I listened to service. And afterwards I said, who are you guys? What is Ananda about? Why does Ananda exist? And the woman sitting across from me, she said so beautifully, she said, Ananda is about you becoming who you are. Ananda is about you becoming who you are. That's what Ananda is about. It's about you becoming. And then what we'll find is, if we're really true and ask the question, how am I doing? Not of our ambient environment, but of our relationship to God. How am I doing, Master? How am I doing, God? Is this what you would have expressed through me right now? Is this what you would have be shared? If you were standing right here, if this was, well, you are standing right here. To follow up with that little joke we started with, if you want to know what God looks like, look in the mirror. I moved to Ananda shortly, a year or two after I found it. And I was getting a tour of, the newbie tour of the campus, of the community. And this beautiful young woman was giving me the tour. And I was just talking with her. I said, so, this is what you do. You give tours of Ananda. And she said, yes. And I said, is this what you've always done? I didn't know. And she said, no, I was a very high, I was a nurse. Turns out a very high-powered nurse in very, complex circumstances. Certainly a job description that held great import and impact and affected many, many people's lives. And I said, well, why, you're just walking around giving little people little tours of this little property. Why are you doing this instead of that? And she says, I find this to be far more important. I find this to be more what God is asking of me right now. I already know how to do that. And if I keep doing that, I get in the way of other people doing it. And then nobody's doing this. And I realized that that's it. Another friend of ours, he was, an accomplished, highly accomplished pianist. And when I got to Ananda Village, there was a CD out of him playing unbelievable music. But I've never seen him touch a piano. He plays chants always in one key. It doesn't matter what the chant is. He just brings it into the key and plays it out from there. And he's got all of this musical wealth behind him. And I said, what happened? And it turns out he felt that it was an egoic expression. That he already knew how to do it, but the continuing to do it was reinforcing his ego, so he just stopped. He just stopped so that he could listen to something deeper. There's something so deep that's trying to express through all of us. His musical skills brought him to a point, but he had to put it down. We have to put down these identities so that we can live moment by moment in the presence of God and allow God's light to pass through us and share through us. And it will do it uniquely through each one of us in ways that we can't imagine, but which can't happen unless we stop committing ourselves to what we already know. Last night we had a Kriya Yoga initiation, the highest technique of self-realization ever given to mankind for self-realization, awakening by self-effort, ever given to mankind. I'm quoting, I didn't make that up. It's combined, it's a part of 4 practices. Hong Sa, the practice of concentration, the energization exercises which give us control over life force, vitalize our tissues, our minds, our souls. The Om technique, which is a deep, powerful technique of inner communion. And then Kriya itself, which gives us the capacity to commune with God as joy. And it erases, every time you do a Kriya, it erases an enormous amount of self-identity and boxes. And it was just feeling the beauty and the grace and the power of that presence last night, and realizing that if we don't do Kriya, I'm speaking to you all because you're in this room. If you were on another path, I'd probably be talking to you about that path. But if you don't do Kriya, if you don't do these things, there's nothing that can change our sense of self-identity unless we can get rid of our commitment and involvement in it. And Kriya just acts instantly on the inner spine, on the inner places where that self-definition gets locked up. And it frees up that energy, it frees up that consciousness so that it's not pre-committed, so we can be spontaneous in the moment. The world desperately needs people who live in the presence of God moment by moment. And all of us are here because we're making that effort. I would just say, let's keep going. Let's keep doing it. There's a story of a man now. I channel. Wait, let me tune in. She wanted to read this beautiful whisper from eternity It's number 33. It is the demand to travel by the one highway of realization. Our one Father, we are traveling by many true paths toward thy one abode of light. Show us the one highway of common realization where all bypaths of theological beliefs meet. Make us feel that the diverse religions are branches of thy one tree of truth. Bless us that we enjoy the intuition-tested, ripe, luscious fruits of self-knowledge hanging from the many branches of true scriptural teachings. In thy one temple of silence, we all sing to thee a chorus of many-voiced religions. Teach us to chant in harmony with thy love's manifold expressions, that our chorus of souls rouse thee to break thy vow of cosmic silence and lift us onto thy lap of universal, immortal understanding. There's a story of a man who had several blind sons, and he asked each one of them to clean an elephant that he owned and described their experience. And the first one said it was like 4 pillars. He'd been washing, of course, the legs. The second, in an argumentative voice, said, no, it's like a string from heaven. He had been washing the tail. And another said, no, it's a giant rope. And another, you're absolutely all wrong. You're not speaking the truth. The elephant is like a breathing wall. And the last brother said, you're all crazy. The elephant is like 2 big fans. All true and none of them true. Because in that limited definition and commitment, we miss the point. So we can see we don't always have the whole picture, and from the very beginning, our only goal is to find God. Everything on the outside, temples, altars, are all to help us on our journey and remind us of where we're going. There is such diversity. Instead of remembering to go inside and seeing the underlying unity, we go outward and defend that our way is the only way. She notes that it's fun that we're talking about this topic on the eve of leaving for our trip to India. We'll be leaving tomorrow for a month-long pilgrimage, traveling in the footsteps of these masters and visiting the homes, ashrams, and places of worship of these masters. It's interesting also that in the beginning of the autobiography of a yogi, Paramahansa Yogananda's autobiography, he begins talking about his family and his own spiritual quest. He was looking for inspiration from those who were also seeking God. He takes us on a journey of what it's like to visit the saints he met. He met a saint that produced perfume, another that was good with animals, some that were realized masters. Then he finally met his guru, Swami Sri Yukteswar, and found what he was looking for. Then life with his guru wasn't easy because his guru disciplined him. He made him go back home, finish his education. He disciplined him in ways so that he would grow spiritually. Even though Yogananda found his guru, he still had a desire to go to the Himalayas. So he leaves. That's a great story, by the way. In search of the sleepless saint, Ram Gopal. He discovers it's hard to find him, and he's so preoccupied with his search that when he goes into a temple, he doesn't even pay his respects. So Yogananda was then sent on a wild goose chase, and finally a man walks by him. It happens to be Ram Gopal. And he takes him and scolds him severely and says, you knew better than to ignore disrespect in that temple. What did you think you were going to find in a Himalayan cave? Ram Gopal says, you found your guru. He is your cave. Kriyananda went on a similar journey, related in his book, The New Path. He knew he didn't want traditional things from this world. Marriage, a good job, a house in the suburbs. He knew that none of those would be in themselves enough. He shared in his book how he looked for answers through the intellect, through being a playwright. Then he finds the autobiography, and not long after, gets on a bus and heads to LA, where he finally meets his guru and immediately becomes his disciple, realizing he's home. We too have come home. These stories sound familiar. We find the path and then move on, but that desire to know, the desire for truth, will always bring us back to the right path for us. And we need to cling to that desire because it won't always be easy. It's important to do the inner work. He gives us the techniques to remind us of who we really are. Who we are is those qualities of spirit, love, and joy. And we find those qualities wherever we go, at work, at home, at play. And we can see the different pathways to God and the underlying unity. Everyone's path is different, even if we have the same guru. We're all part of the same light, but we express uniquely. This is what the saints do. They live in each moment from that place inside, from deeper inner communion with God, and then share that with everyone. And in whatever they are doing, saints are made in the kitchen, she says. We have that opportunity also to add our light and love into whatever we're doing, into the world, wherever we are. Teach us to see behind all outer appearances our underlying oneness with Thee, and to open our hearts and share Thy presence every moment. So we're going to wrap up with just a moment of reading. This is from Swami Kriyananda. It is How to Live with the Lord. So get your mirroring neurons ready. Get your questing mind, how am I doing, into play. And we'll tune into this. I'll hand you a copy at the end. How to live with the Lord. Think not of what you can get, but what you can give. Serve not people, but God through people. God is happiest not in our efficiency, but in our increasingly humble attitude. Get yourself out of the way. Don't think of yourself, but of Him. Serve joyfully even in obscurity. Don't look to others for endorsement. Be content to seek the Lord's smile in your heart. Be centered in the inner self. Don't let circumstances or people pull you down. Let Christ's light fill you when you work with others. Be an open window through which the Lord's sunlight can flow to all. God will support you the more you live in Him. God will support you the more you live in Him. Let God radiate in your heart and live by His inner inspiration. Work more listening to God inwardly. Ask only, Lord, are you pleased? How can I please you more? And ask, dear God, tell me what you want. Help me to do what you want. You are God's child. There is nothing that is not yours. Be a radiant spirit, large, not small. Greater dignity and greater strength add nicely to your childlikeness. Be joyfully courageous, majestically confident. Be filled with confidence that the Holy Spirit will use you. The power of the infinite is in you. Live more in that center where God dwells and radiate this to others. And their lives and your own will be changed. Om Shanti.
I'd like to offer is also written by Swami Kriyananda entitled God's Call Within, taken from his piano sonata, The Divine Romance.